Hey everyone, today we will be solving the 5 by 5 Rubik's Cube. Now I want to get a couple of things clear here. 5 by 5 is not as hard as it looks like. You can solve it just like a 3 by 3 and a 4 by 4. As they say, 3 square plus 4 square is equals to 5 square. Wait, what? So yes, it's true. You can solve this cube using the 3 by 3 methods and the 4 by 4 methods. You can use the 4 by 4 methods by solving the centers and the edges of the 5 by 5 and then solving the cube just like a 3 by 3. Now you can see this is like the biggest cube we have covered so far, right? Instead of 2 we have 3 sub pieces in the edges and 9 sub pieces in the centers of the 5 by 5, and you can see there are 3 layers in the middle layer of the 5 by 5, right? So don't worry, it's not as hard as it looks like. I've said that before, right? So don't need to stress out that how you're going to solve the video cube or not. Now, before watching this video, make sure you watch my 3 by 3 and 4 by 4 tutorials before watching this video, because you know the methods that I've used in the 3 by 3 as well as the 4 by 4 tutorial all are going to be applied on the 5 by 5 Rubik's Cube. So make sure you watch those videos before watching this video. Let's come to the point of the cube rotations involved in the 5 by 5. Again, the 4 by 4 and the 3 by 3 rotations are all applied here. As you can see, this is 2R and then the usual rotation notes that we have covered before. Alright, so in this video for the 5 by 5 we'll be just covering one extra little rotation. For example, if you turn 3 right layers, this would be 3R. Like the rotation will be same like you do for the right layer turning. If you turn 3 right layers, it's R, and this would be R prime, for example, which would be 3R prime in correction. Alright, this would be 3U and 3U prime respectively. Basically 3 applied to any left layer turns if you are turning 3 layers at once. Alright, so this is going to come handy in the H parity algorithm that we are going to be covering. Yes, we have seen in the 4 by 4 that we had quite a lot of parities in it, but the 5 by 5 will only have one parity. That is when you have the edge pieces like flipped. Like for example, if you either have these two edge pieces flipped or the center edge piece flipped, right? So we'll be covering that parity. There's no other parity involved in the 5 by 5. Once you're done solving the edge parity, you won't face any problems while solving it like a 3 by 3. So it will be just like a pretty normal solve once you're done solving the centers and the edges of the cube. So go ahead and scramble that cube and we'll learn how to solve it. The first thing we are going to do is to solve the white center. Now, before we go on solving the white center, let me just get a summary of the steps that we are going to follow while solving the 5 by 5. It's just like the 4 by 4, solving the centers, then the edges, and then the entire cube like a 3 by 3. Alright, so let's get on with solving the white center first. So generally how we're going to solve the white center and the other centers is by first forming a 2 by 3 center pieces grid or something, no, and then a 3 by 1 bar here and joining them together to form a white center. Let me show you what I mean. So let's find two of these type of edge center pieces and then join them together and make a 2 by 1 sort of bar. Alright, so we have one of the pieces here and the other one is here. Now what you generally do for solving the 2 by 3 bar formation here, right, just get those two center pieces in an alignment. Like we have these two here, right? It's like one of the corner center pieces and this is like an edge centerpiece. Like it's like a 3 by 3 grid, you know, like just as we are familiar with the 3 by 3 cube, right? So let's go and join up these pieces. Alright, so we have a 2 by 1 bar here. So that's how we're going to join pieces and then form the centers of the cube. So let's look up to the other bars. As you can see, we already have, I don't know, like two variations of bars here. Like you can either consider this bar or this bar, right? It's totally up to you. Now if you're making a 2 by 3 for centerpiece formation here, like we need another bar which is supposed to stand out like this. Alright, so if you just turn this face and let's just look at the alignment here. these two centerpieces are like perfectly matching with these two, so that we have the other two centerpieces joined here, and we'll have the 2 by 3 white center piece formation here. All right, so like that you can just go on and solve the 2 by 3 bar. All right, now let's find this type of centerpiece and the edge centerpiece of the white center. Right, one of the pieces is here. Now this is the piece that needs to go on here. All right, so again you can join these two pieces like this. All right, and then let's just see how we're going to insert this bar here. Right, as you can see, this is like going towards the top of direction, so we need these two bars to face the top direction also. Right, and then we can go on and insert it, because you don't want to have a formation in such a way that when you join them you have like, I don't know, it's like a trident shape or something. Right, you can consider that, but then again we can follow the easiest steps. Right, like why to like make yourselves arranged with the mess. Right, so let's just make sure that the bars are like facing the same direction, and then you can join them to form a 2 by 3 here. All right, so once you're done with that, you can go and form a 3 by 1 white bar. All right, so we need to find the center pieces for that. So one, we have one here, and this second one here, like we can join these two. So they should be on the same side while joining them. Right, so since this is on the right, so we can bring this on the right side here like this, and then go on and joining it. Now make sure in this process you don't mess up your 2 by 3 bar pieces, like, because that would be, messed up. All right, you need to work on those again, so you don't really want that. Right, so now we need to find out this last centerpiece here, which is right here. All right, so this is on the top right corner, so let's just turn this face in a way this the piece can come here easily, and then you can join them. Now, as I was talking about, you need to make sure that your other centerpieces which are already solved, they do not get messed up. All right, so once you join that, again, if you remember in the 4 by 4 center formation, we followed some steps in which you avoided the centers which are already solved to be messed up, and then you solve new centers. All right, so we're going to follow the same step. Now we need to bring this bar up, and this is on the right side. All right, so bring this on the left, or you can bring it on the right side, is up to you. Right, it doesn't really matter, you can solve the center like in using any other way. Right, it's up to you. So we have this 2 by 3 here, and the 3 by 1 bar can be inserted here like this, and you have the white center formed. Once you're done solving the white center, make sure it's on the bottom, because the next thing we're going to do is to solve the yellow center. Alright. Now, if you remember that while in this 4 by 4 tutorial, we had to remember the color combination, like which is to be next to which center, and all of the stuffs which made it the 4 by 4 solve like a little bit complicated while solving the centers especially. Now, since the 5 by 5 cube is an odd numbered cube, just like the 3 by 3, you already have these cent pieces which will indicate you where which color of the center should be present. Alright, so you don't really need to worry about which center should be adjacent to which. Alright, so you already have a hint there, so you don't need to worry about that. Right, so now we know that this is the white yellow center here, so we need to solve the yellow center pieces on this face. So it's just the same steps. We're going to form the bars in a 2 by 3 and then a 3 by 1 bar insertion, and we're going to insert them the same way as we did for the 4 by 4 yellow center. Now make sure you watch that 4 by 4 tutorial, because it's really going to help while solving the 5 by 5 centers. So let's just take these two pieces here and join them to form a 2 by 1 bar. Now they're not really aligned properly here, so let's just take one of the pieces out of the face and separate them. Now since this is on the bottom, let's bring this piece on the bottom layer as well, because then you can join them easily to form a 2 by 1 bar. Right, now we are going to bring this on the top. Now if you remember the 4 by 4 tutorial, we used to bring the bars on the top, then change its direction and move it into a different layer, so that when you reverse your moves you don't really have the other centerpieces messed up. All right, so that's what we're going to do here. Right, so since this 2 by 1 bar is facing in the bottom direction, this 2 by 1 bar that we're going to use for solving the 2 by 3 of the yellow center to be formed in the same way like this. So this needs to face the bottom direction as well, so let's just bring this down here. Right, you can consider this bar also to come here, but again it's really up to you. All right, so I'll go with this 2 by 1 bar. Right, so let's just go and join them now. the white center is messed up, alright, is jumbled. So we're going to follow the same steps as we did in the 4 by 4 center formation, right? So bring this bar out of the range of the motion that we have here, in the way that you have an unsolved 3 by 1 layer here, or any other sort of layer which you can consider. When you reverse your moves, you have the white center formed and you also have the bars inserted, right? So using the same steps you can just solve up the yellow center. Let's just find two other center pieces. And you can see we have a couple of options here. You can either go with this yellow edge centerpiece or this one to go on with this piece here. Alright, I'm going to choose this one. Let's bring it on the right, because in that way you can join these two pieces to form a 2 by 1 bar. Now again, make sure the 2 by 1 bars are facing in the same direction. So if this is on the bottom, let's just bring it on the bottom as well. Now you might be thinking, why didn't we just turn this to face the top direction? You can do that, right? But then again, you need to change the position of this as well. I mean, it's really not that bad. You can use this way as it is. It's really up to you, all right? Yeah, like this is the beauty of 5 by 5. There's so many intuitive ways to solve it, right? Like it's not just really specifically algorithmic for solving any part of the cube. You can just solve it in any way you want, right? So that's the beauty of the 5 by 5 cube, and this is why I really love it solving, right? So let's just bring these two bars in the bottom direction. Now join them. Now bring this layer in the left side, right, because it's an unsolved one. Reverse your moves, and there you go. You have the 2 by 3 yellow center formation already. So let's work on the 3 by 1 yellow bar. We have these two pieces here. We can follow the same steps again. Separate them and bring them in two different faces. Now make them face in the same direction and then join them. Alright, so now we need to find this last centerpiece, which I believe is here. Alright, so since this facing on the top, like these should be facing the same direction, right? So what you're going to do, since this is on the top left, let's just bring it on the left side, this 2 by 1 bar, and we know that the yellow centerpiece that's on the other side is going to be here. So once you are sure of that, just join them. Alright, now we need to bring this up here. So what you can do, again, if you remember the 4 by 4 step formation, if you have watched my tutorial, this should be really easy for you. Alright, bring this white 3 by 1 bar down, bring this yellow 3 by 1 bar in the same layer as the white 3 by 1 bar which we just separated, and then reverse your moves. There you go, you have the yellow center formed, and in that way your white center stays intact. So you have the first two centers of the 5 by 5 solved. Alright, now that you have done solving the first two centers of the cube, you can solve the first middle layer center of the 5 by 5. I'm going to fast forward this video because or skip to the next part step of this solving the 5 by 5, because you know it's just involving the same steps, and you just need to make sure that you don't mess up the white center and the yellow center, else you can form the same bar formation steps and then form a 2 by 3 bar of any color center you want to choose, and then make a 3 by 1 bar. Alright, so it's really not that complicated. So what you can do, just make sure you solve one of the centers of the middle layer of the 5 by 5, and then you're good to go, and then we'll work on the last three centers of the cube. So I'm skipping forward to this video. Make sure you solve one of the centers of the middle layer of the 5 by 5. Alright, so I skipped forward this video and I got my red center solved here. Again, if you have any doubts for solving one of the middle layer centers, because I just skipped this part of the video, you can just mention it in the comments below and I'll help you solve the centers if you have any doubts. Alright, so again, now we're done with solving the first center of the middle layer of the 5 by 5. We can go on solving the next center. You can see we have the blue center that is to be formed here. So we are going to follow the same steps like forming a 2 by 3 and then the 3 by 1 of the blue center, right? As you can see, we already have 2 by 1 bars here already, but they are like in like a thunderbolt shape or something, and we need to make sure that they form a shape in such a way that they are ready to be aligned with the 2 by 3 bar formation that we're going to have. So if you ever face such a case, alright, so it's just a simple step really. It's not really that complicated. What you can do, just bring this part down. Right, now I know the red center is messed up, but you don't need to worry about that again. Alright, now we know the need now we know that they need to face the same direction. Since this is facing the top, we need to make sure that this 2 by 1 face the top as well. So let's just turn this face twice so that they are facing the same direction. Reversing your moves will correct their alignment, so you have them perfectly joined together. Now let's go on and see the last two 2 by 1 bars here, and then the 3 by 1 bar of the blue center, right? So what I generally prefer while solving the centers of the middle layer, I once you have solve a part of the any colored center that you have, I just turn it to the left side, because usually work with the right layer of the 5 by 5, and that helps me a lot in solving the blue centers, especially solving them faster. So it's up to you what you want to do, but I prefer to solve it this way, right? So now let's solve these two pieces to join it here, right? So again, this is another different case while you can solve the middle layer centers, in which you have these two in the same face, but if even if you go and separate them, you'll have the centers like messed up, even though they are not the yellow and the white ones, right? So what you can do, turn them sideways and then keep the yellow or the white center on the top. Alright, so what you can do to join them, since we need to bring this down, you can use this middle layer of the 5 by 5. Let me show you what I mean. Separate them like this. Now make sure that you turn this face twice in a way that this bar is still facing vertically, upwards or downwards, as you want to say. Right, now you can see that once you reverse your moves, they are perfectly joined, which is great, right? Now you have those two pieces correctly joined, and we have the 2 by 1 bar here. Now we can join it with these 2 by 2 grids here, right? It's just the same steps involved here. Join them. Now make sure this layer comes on the right side, because we're going to reverse the moves, which includes this right 3 by 1 red layer, right? And then reversing your moves will make you solve the 2 by 3 blue bar, and then the red center will still be intact. Alright, so now we are going to form the 3 by 1 bar here. Again, this is one of the cases which you will get while solving the 5 by 5 centers, right? So what you can do, first bringing this centerpiece here, is first just separate them like this. Bring it on the other face, like in which the other two pieces are not there. Now we know that this layer needs to be reversed in terms of moving it. So let's just bring this centerpiece on the side, on the right side if you want to be precise, and then reverse your moves. And you can see we have these two separated, and let's just check if the red center is still solved, which it is. And then we need to make them face the same direction, these three pieces. This is on the bottom right, and if we just turn this face, you can see now we can just join them easily. So join them. Now you can just bring it out of this layer or something else as you want to, but now since we need to bring this 3 by 1 layer here, we'll just bring it on the right side, because bringing it on the right side and after reversing your moves will help you insert this 3 by 1 layer here. Alright, so if you remember the 4 by 4 center solving steps again, if the way we are solving the first two middle layer centers, alright, so we're going to follow the same steps again here. Bring this on the left side, then bring this 3 by 1 red bar here. Alright, now make this 3 by 1 blue bar in the same side as this one, and then reverse your moves. There you go. As you can see, you have the blue and the red center formed, and your yellow and the white centers are still solved, which is a good thing. So now we are left with the last two centers of the cube. Alright, now we're left with the last two centers of the cube. So the way we are going to solve the last two centers of the 5 by 5 is using the same steps. Choose one color center and then just form the 2 by 3 of the center. Alright, and in that way you'll solve the last three pieces of the particular colored center, and in that way once your first center gets solved, the other one gets solved automatically. Alright, so let's just choose this orange color for example and get a 2 by 3 formation here. Alright, you can see we already have two 2 by 1 bars here. We just need to bring this piece here. Alright, so in such cases what you can do, right, just bring this on the top like this, the entire layer, right, and then turn this face twice in such a way that when you go reversing your moves, you have these two 2 by 1 bars joined. Alright, so now we're going to bring the other 2 by 1 bar here, again the usual steps. let's choose. We already have two 2 by 1 bars here as options, so you can choose either one of them. Now you can just bring this on the right side in such a way, because these two 2 by 1 bars are facing the bottom direction, so we can make this 2 by 1 bar face the bottom direction as well. So we can go and align them, right? So once you align them, you join them. Now you see you are turning the right middle layer here. All right, so what you're going to do is just turn this on the other side, left side, because in a way, when you reverse your moves here, your 2 by 3 formation is not messed up and the other centers are still solved. All right, so there you go, you have the 2 by 3 formation of the orange center. All right, to insert the last three pieces of the orange center here, for any other piece in the last remaining ones, there's a simple stepwise algorithm in which you can insert each of these pieces one by one in their respective slots. All right, so let me show you what I mean. Suppose we have to take this centerpiece and we have to insert it here, obviously. All right, so what you're going to do, just follow this procedure that I'm going to show you right now. In that way, for any center piece, then you can insert it in the respective slots very easily. So since this centerpiece needs to come here, just turn this layer of the 5 by 5, right? Now after doing that, just shift this centerpiece to the other side. All right, so once you're done with that, now bring this layer down in which the centerpiece you're solving is present. All right, now before that we did an F move, I believe. Yeah, so we need to do an F prime move here, right? So now remember the layer which we turned, this one, it was like sort of an L direction, so we're going to do an L prime one. Now we're going to do an F move again, since the last front layer turn that we did was F prime, right? And now reverse your moves, and then you can see you have this centerpiece inserted here. All right, so it's just simple. Bring this piece in whichever layer it is and turn that layer to bring it in the respective slot, and then the rest of the steps continue in the same way as I showed you. Now let's bring this piece here. All right, so since this is like in the top face of the center, let's just bring this centerpiece on the top. Let's follow the same procedures again. Bring this piece down here. Now you can either bring it on the left or the right side, because you're turning the middle layer here. So like by inserting these centerpieces like this, if you turn the left middle layer or something, you bring the centerpiece on the right, and vice versa. All right, since it's the middle layer, so you can turn it on either side. So I'll turn it on the right. Now I'll bring this 3 by 1 bar here down, right? Now since we did an F move there, I'll do an F prime. Now we'll do like a sort of middle layer turn, like in the top direction, right? It's basically making the moves and then reversing them again in a stepwise order, and then do an F move again, and then reverse your moves, and you can see your orange centerpieces are inserted in their respective slots, and you can see the green center is also solved automatically. So there you go, you have all the centers of the 5 by 5 solved. Now let's move on to the next step, which is solving all the edges. Alright, to solve the edges of the 5 by 5, you can really follow the same steps as we had followed while solving the 4 by 4 edges, except it's a little bit different this time, right? So now to solve the edges, first make sure that your yellow center and the white center are in like vertical directions. Either way, you can keep either one of those centers on the top or the bottom, it's really your wish. Just make sure that they're not in the lateral sides of the 5 by 5 cube, right? So the usual way, like we did in the 4 by 4, we're going to first solve the white edges and the middle layer edges. All right, so let's just take an edge example here, for example the white and the blue edge. Now for solving the edges, we are going to use these middle layers in here, as you can see, and without turning the layers in such a way that the yellow and the white centers are messed up, right? So you can see here we have two of these blue and white edge pieces here. So now the first thing we need to do is to bring these sort of pieces in the lateral side of the cube, and in such a way that when you join them, they form a proper edge. Let me show you what I mean. Now, as you can see here, when you join these two pieces, you can see they are like sort of aligned. The outer parts of the edge is perfectly matched. Now just remember, take this note here. If you have two of the similar edge pieces here, now if in the front face you have opposite colors, that means you can join them without any parities, right? Now for example, let me show you another case. We have similar color faces on the front face, then it's not possible to join, right? So you need to make sure that opposite color faces are there for the similar edge pieces. So the way you can switch is that, like I'll just show it to you right now. Just take it out like this, and then insert it with a sledgehammer, the edge piece that we had taken out earlier, and you have opposite color faces on the front one, so that you can join these edge pieces without any parities. So now you have joined two pieces. The next piece we need is the blue and white edge center. Oh, it's in the bottom, so let's just bring the white face on the top. Now, while bringing such edge pieces in the central part of the 5 by 5, like in the lateral ways, like I just showed you the case, all right? So we need to insert this here in such a way that we don't have any parities while joining the edge. Now, if you just insert it like the way I just did, you see you have similar colors on the front face, and we don't want that, like I just told you. So here we have two cases. If, for example, the two solved edge pieces have the same color, and the third piece has a different color in the front face, right? So what you need to do is just do the reverse, the opposite of the sledgehammer for inserting this here, since I'm using the left side of the 5 by 5. Else you can use a sledgehammer if you need to insert this piece here in any way you want to see, right? So like this you can insert it. I believe it's called a head slammer, but I don't really remember the names. As you can see, you have this inserted here. Now let me just show you another case. For example, you have three edge pieces with the same face in the face, right? Same color on the front face. So to insert that, for example, I'm using the left layer right now. I'll just do L prime U L. If you're using the right layer, it would be R U prime R prime, so that you have different color faces here. So you can join these edge pieces now, and you have the three pieces of the single edge joined completely. Now the next thing we're going to do is to follow the 4 by 4 steps again. To take it out, replace it with an unsolved edge, and then reverse your center moves. Alright. So we're going to take it out by R U R prime. As you can see, we have brought it out here, and like we have replaced it with an unsolved one. Let me just show you what I did. I brought it up, replaced it with an unsolved edge, and then reversed your moves. Now keep in mind that if you are done solving this edge, just join your centers back, because you don't really want to work with the edges while your centers are messed up. Alright. So in this way you can solve the first 8 edges of the 5 by 5, the white edges and the middle layer edges. Alright, so I'll skip this video so you can solve the edges on your own. Now just make sure, if you have such cases in your 5 by 5 while solving the edges, what you can do is just separate these two edge pieces, alright, and then the same way that I had shown you for taking out and reinserting them, so that they have different color faces on in the front face, right? So you can follow the same steps to solve the first 8 edges of the 5 by 5. So I'm going to skip this video. Hopefully you won't have any problems while solving the first 8 edges of the 5 by 5. Alright, using the technique that I have just shown you, I've solved all the white edges and the middle layer edges. So if you have any doubts for solving these edges, I know it might get a bit tricky at the first time you solve it, but then you need to practice this method so that you can get your edge solving mastered, like solving the technique that I just showed you. Alright, so once you're done solving the first 8 edges of the 5 by 5, we're going to solve all the yellow edges, which are the last 4 edges of the cube, right? So we're going to follow the same steps again. Alright, so we're going to first solve the first 2 yellow edges of the cube, because in the end, the last two while solving the last 2 yellow edges of the cube, you need to like solve some special cases that we're going to get. Alright, so since we have none of the unsolved edges on both the white face and the yellow face, let's just bring some. Alright, let's just bring this yellow face here. Right, I just brought this one on top. So if you haven't, I hope you don't get any confusion while getting the unsolved edges on top, like I'm just doing right now. Right, so, and don't worry, while solving the middle edges, I know this will get messed up, but once you reverse your moves, this edge will be perfectly fine. Alright, so don't worry about that. So we are going to solve the blue and yellow edge first. So as you can see, these two edge pieces are already joined, so you're going to use the same technique to join them. Now we have an unsolved edge on the top. replace it with the unsolved one that we have. All right, and then reverse your moves. As you can see, we have the moves reversed, right? So once you have done solving the first yellow edge, now you can see, even if you want to bring this, for example, an unsolved uh, edge here. So if you, for example, if you are making the red and the yellow edge, you need this third piece, and you can't just bring it here, and because that will really mess up the other edges that you have solved, right? So what you're going to do for the last three yellow edges, you can just go and solve them one by one. For example, we have this unsolved edge here, so we'll just first join these two edge pieces, then replace it with the unsolved edge piece. All right, and then reverse your moves. All right, so now we'll get this unsolved edge piece on the top, right? And let's just find, yeah, so we'll bring these two pieces here, and like I said, this case that I showed you, when in the front face you have the same colored faces, just insert it. Like for example, I need to use the left layer here right now, so I'll do L prime U L to make sure that you have opposite color faces while joining the edge pieces. All right, so now we just join them, right? Now replace it with an unsolved one. All right, and then reverse your moves. So we have solved the red yellow edge also. Okay, so now we're down to the last two yellow edges of the 5 by 5. Now you can't just use the same steps that I've just shown you, like joining the edge pieces then replacing with an unsolved one, because technically you don't have any other unsolved yellow or any other edge piece of the 5 by 5, so you need to use these two only. So there's a special case that you can use here. So let's just turn this cube around here because I need to show you something. um, we have these two green and yellow edge pieces here. Don't worry about the flip, we're going to solve it later. That's one of the parities that we get while solving the 5 by 5. All right, so what we're going to do, in fact, you just let me just turn this around here like this, right? And what we're going to do is that we can see this third yellow edge piece here, which is of the green and yellow edge. We can bring this on the top here, so let's just bring this on the top. Right, so I know we have these two same colored faces here, right? So that's what we need in this case. We need to make sure that two of the yellow edge pieces, not the center one, the side edges are like having the same colored face. Even if it's the center one, it doesn't really matter because you can use the same steps to solve this. All right, now we have the same yellow color, the same face on the front face, like the color of the edge piece. So what you're going to do is to bring this piece here. All right, and then just take it out and do like a head slammer here in this case, or you can use the sledgehammer if you're like using the right layer, right? Make sure, and then reverse your moves, so you can see that really join the pieces here. So you don't really need to use any unsolved edge because you won't have any. So using this technique you can just solve the last three yellow edges of the cube if you have any. All right, so there you go, you have all the edges solved, except we have this parity over here, right? It's not necessarily to only get one edge as wrongly flipped, right? You can get as many as you can, like two to three, maybe even more. All right, so there's like a simple algorithm to this. If you remember the way we did our OLL parity for the 4 by 4, we're going to use a similar type of algorithm in this case. All right, so what we're going to do, just do this algorithm. It's another version of the one which we used in the 4 by 4 OLL parity. All right, so here it goes. And as you can see, you have the yellow edge solved, and all of the edges of the 5 by 5 are now solved. That's great. Now you can solve this cube like a 3 by 3, and trust me, you won't have any problems while solving it because this was the only parity you'll face in solving the 5 by 5. So I'll skip this video, just solve the 5 by 5 like a 3 by 3 now. There you go, you have solved the 5 by 5 now. It's an amazing thing to do if you have reached this far of the video, right? So that's great if you have solved the 5 by 5. Now, I know for many of you the tutorial is getting a bit confusing. Now, take this opinion here. Making tutorials on the 5 by 5 or any other big cubes that you have, makes sense, but then again, it all really depends on how you understand your cubing techniques. Like 3 by 3 and 4 by 4, you need tutorials, of course, if you can't solve it on your own. That's totally natural. But then, once you've mastered those cubes, then you'll be able to, or you should be able to solve the 5 by 5 and the other big cubes on your own. At least that's how I did it. Except the parity that I just showed you in the 5 by 5. Alright, that needs a bit of Google researching or any tutorial, because that parity algorithm needs a bit of tweaking from as compared to the 4 by 4 one. Right? Rest. You should be able to do this cube on your own. And if you're not able to do, I just made a brief tutorial here. Not really brief, but yeah, again, just I hope you get what I mean. So I've covered up all the steps that you may require to solve the 5 by 5. Again, it's just like the 4 by 4, solving the centers, the edges, and solve it like a 3 by 3. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you had a lot of fun while solving the 5 by 5. I'm telling you, it's an amazing cube. It will really help you brainstorm a lot, right? It won't get you bored. Trust me. That's my experience. Take it. Alright? So now that we're done with the 5 by 5 tutorial, keep practicing this cube, because in the end you'll feel like, meh, this is really an easy cube. There's nothing hard at all, because it might seem hard at first, for especially for beginners. Alright? So thanks for watching this video. I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you. Have a great day.